Round 10 of the ADAC GT Masters is here at the Nürburgring, and it's a wet and slippery Nürburgring, but actually things are improving. You might not think it, the bedraggled fans in the grandstands are all wrapped up warm. It's not exactly a hot day, but we've had rain, we've had fog, we've had races delayed, we've had races interrupted, and finally there's some optimism because the cloud is lifting, the rain has stopped, even though the road is damp, and I think the majority of teams will start on wets. But yesterday's race was a rain-affected thriller with penalties post-race. I'll come to in a moment. Today's race, I think, is going to be another where you start on wets and end up going onto slick tyres. But whether anybody is brave enough to start on slicks remains to be seen. Looking down onto the grid, pole position for this race to Klaus Bachler's Porsche, which is the yellow car lining up on the inside of the grid. Klaus Bachler yesterday eliminated after a Bentley spun across the front of him and it damaged the radiator as he T-boned it, so that was him out of the race, having inherited a car that had led early on in the hands of Martin Ragginger, but they tried to gamble to stay out as long as possible and stay on slick tyres as the road dried out, and it was working until the Bentley spun across the bows and it put the Porsche out of the race. Now yesterday on the road, the winner Nicky Tim and Jordan Lee Pepper then penalised. They were one of 4 teams that got a 30-second penalty post-race in lieu of a stop-go for overtaking under the safety car. Nicky Tim was one culprit, Luca Ludwig was another, Jens Klingmann and Stef Dusseldorp. They all got a 30-second penalty. Significantly most, really, for Luca Ludwig, because for the driver leading the championship, out of the top 4 for the first time this year, his car fell to 9th of the others. Klingmann ended up 12th, 11th for Stef Dusseldorp, and the on-the-road winners ended up 5th, Jordan Lee Pepper and Nicky Tim. Now, all of this was triggered by a protest from the ADAC Motorsport team, which had lost its Porsche through damage in the hands of Klaus Bachler earlier on. So it was a rather grumpy paddock late last night. 10 o'clock the result was published, but the net result was that it was a first win of the season for Daniel Dobic and Edward Sandstrom, who'd been second on the road and then inherited the win with second place going to Rahal Frey and Philip Geipel, who'd stayed on the slick tyres all the way through the race, and as the road dried out at the end, Geipel charged up to 3rd, which then became 2nd. Now, they're on wet tyres for the start of this race. We've only had a glimpse at 1 or 2 of the cars, so it's harder to see exactly who is doing what, but I think we'll have an indication from the lap times early on as to who has made a gamble, if anybody has gambled and gone onto slicks. The road is certainly wet. They've had a couple of installation laps round onto the grid. 21 cars we have in readiness for the start of this race. I think the grid is complete. Yesterday we had 1 casualty, which was Remo Lip's Corvette, but I don't think it suffered enough damage to put that out of today's race. So the grid should be complete. And with 1 or 2, like Luca Ludwig starting near the back, and Uwe Alpson a long way down as well after a poor qualifying. The 1-minute board given, everybody now to leave the grid. We've got a lot to look forward to in a 1-hour race. Pit window is between 25 and 35 minutes, and a pit stop must be 65 seconds. Looking down to the pole position car, Klaus Bachler then behind the wheel. Last year he was part of the Porsche Junior program. He's had a win already this year. Philip Geipel will start. Philip Geipel at the wheel of number 16, the Yako Racing Audi, which took its best result yet yesterday with an inspired drive by Philip Geipel in that second stint. It was a gamble to stay on slicks, but it worked. Second row of the grid, Nicky Tim will be on the inside for Christian Abt Racing. And lining up alongside it is Fabian Hamprecht in the Bentley Success Ballast after yesterday, put Bachler on 30. Geipel carries 35, a combination in some cases of success ballast and also handicap weight given your 2 drivers. So it's 30 and 35 kilos for the 2 cars you see at the front. Nicky Tim in the black and white Audi carries 20. Fabian Hamprecht in the Bentley alongside it on 15. It's 20 kilos for Mark Messeng and 50 for yesterday's winners Daniel Dobic and Edward Sandstrom as the cars blast away from the line now. As I say, the cloud is lifting. 3 hours ago you could barely see from one side of the circuit to the other where the hairpin is at the end of the lap. Now it's a nice clear view, but there is still quite a bit of water on the road. And the first few laps are going to have to be treated with a certain degree of caution, that's for sure. Philip Geipel on the radio, back to the team in the pit lane to advise them of the conditions. But of course, if it's not too bad on this lap, would you be a real hero and go onto slicks? As far as we are aware, it is only the 1 warming up lap. This is not the start of the race. It's rare, given today's conditions, but it's not being a safety car start. It's the traditional formation lap and then into the race itself. Now, if the race director feels that that conditions are a little bit too wet, he may give a second formation lap, but if everybody is on the wet rubber, then a decision is taken really away from him. He's already told the teams it's a wet race, and therefore the tyre choice is down to them. He's not going to stop it to give them the opportunity to go onto a wet tyre if they haven't already done so. But I think it is wet enough for wets to be advisable, at least in the first stint. The grid scrolls through. Mark Vasseng will start 5th on it, ahead of Edward Sandstrom. The 2 orange MS Racing Audis there at the back of the shot, ahead of Jens Klingman, Christer Jons, whose car was off the road yesterday when Andreas Weishaupt was driving it. Ben Schneider in the black and gold Mercedes 9th, ahead of last year's champion Kelvin van der Linde. Then it is Sven Barth and Stef Dusseldorf, who made his ADAC GT debut yesterday. Renger van der Zande, the ex-Mercedes DTM racer, is alongside Vincent Avril, making his championship debut. Then Florian Strauss ahead of Daniel Karlwitz with work to do. They retired yesterday. Uwe Altson's a long way back. Lennart Marianec is a long way back as well. Then it's Florian Scholzer and Patrick Assenheimer, with the last car on the grid being that of Luca Ludwig. It was put to the back of the grid for both races after qualifying because it was found to be underweight. And so the Zach Speed Run car yesterday, I tell you, it battled its way up to 2nd place at one point, and then in the last few laps, as it struggled on its tyres at the end, faded to 4th. But it ultimately, with the penalty, fell back down the order. That's the first time all year it's been out of the top 4 on the classification. Well, let's see what can be done today. The championship now led by Asch and Ludwig on 150 points, Klaus Bachler on 106, and then it's Klingman and Baumann on 89. So 2 of the people trying to catch in the championship having a problem yesterday. Bachler out with damage, Klingman and Baumann down the order after a penalty. And so we are ready for 1 hour of racing. Round 10 of the ADAC GT Masters is about to get underway. The cars now work their way up towards the final corner. A much, much better view of it now compared to earlier on in the day, but the road is still treacherous, the road is still slippery, and the 10th round of the ADAC GT Masters is about to get underway. Klaus Bachler floors the throttle, accelerates away. Philip Geipel caught napping there, much slower over the line as everybody else comes up the inside of him. So it's going to be Bachler to lead the way. Nicky Tim will be up the inside as well, trying to get second. Or do they? Now, the yellow flags, the yellow lights are still on. I think we've had an aborted start. Let's just check, because the yellow legend is still on the screen. Yes, yellow flags wave. And although the pace car had come in, looking at that, I suspect the race director has called for the yellows to stay out, given that it was a rather untidy start. So there's going to be an extra formation lap. The clock is ticking still. And so Klaus Bachler, who floored the throttle and got the jump on everybody else, Rahal Frey looks on. I think Klaus Bachler has, by being a bit too keen on his toes, prompted another formation lap. Now let's just see if they're going to grid up again, 2 by 2, or what happens next. There, once more, is a safety car, released, ready to scoop them all up. And yes, it was an untidy start, so effectively an extra formation lap behind the safety car, not because of the weather, but because of an untidy start. Here it is again, looking back from Klaus Bachler's Porsche. So he comes out of the last corner and he accelerates away, but look, Geipel and the rest of his rank on the grid don't accelerate away. Some slow, others catch back up, but the race director calls for another yellow situation, and therefore he will get everybody bunched up for a better start. So nervous faces in the pit bunkers, and all of this eating into the race duration, because the clock, as you can see, is down to 58 minutes. So for this stint, where you've got the faster driver on board in most cases, you need to maximise them, and you've just lost a lap because of the untidy start. We're not aware as yet that anybody is under investigation for it, but we are going to have to go again. So Klaus Bachler and Philip Geipel there on the front of the grid. The theory is they should remain in the 2 by 2 formation all the way up towards the line, but Philip Geipel and Klaus Bachler certainly poles apart when they got up to the line last time. So, does the safety car swing in? Yes, at the last moment it does. And Klaus Bachler will this time have to be a little bit more mindful of when to accelerate away. It's 2 by 2 formation all the way up towards the lights. Here they come then, out of the last corner. And again, Bachler is on his toes quicker than Geipel. He wants to get on with this. They accelerate across the line, but it is a tidier start, and this time it does go green. The cars accelerate away down towards turn 1. So Backler leads the way, but Geipel is trying to defend from Nicky Team up on the inside. The two Audis run by different teams together. And then in 4th place, it is Mark Basseng up the inside, and the first of the orange cars run by MS Racing, the next of the R8. But Backler trying to make good his escape as Tim runs out wide, and very crossed up there was the Schubert black and red BMW. Jens Klingman at the wheel of it. Looking back from Backler's car, looking forward from Philip Geipel's car. Nicky Tim up into 2nd place and going after the Porsche. The best of the Bentleys as well is Fabian Hampret with the red mirrors, and absolutely level there. Ben Schneider around the outside of Jens Klingman. Down towards the hairpin they come then. For the first time, it's on the short Grand Prix circuit. This end, there's a little cut through here, and Backler turns his way into the right hand, and the rest of the field dive through, and there's drama already for number 1. That's the reigning champion in Strive, Calvin van der Linde. And also off is Uwe Altzen. And a lot of damage to Altzen's car. Now, he got tagged into a spin at the end of yesterday's race and was not at all impressed. The safety car is being deployed already. Safety car is deployed with 2 battered cars, and Uwe Altzen is out of the race. That's all in the Mercedes arena, and perhaps poetically for Mercedes, it's a BMW and an Audi involved, no Mercedes. But both with front damage, so we need to try and piece that together and see who did what to which and to whom here. So the safety car deployed because of this accident. And there, looking back, is Vakabauer. Sorry, is van der Linde in Vakabauer's car. He gets turned sideways, and as he goes around, I think Altzen coming up from the back of the grid had nowhere to go except into him. So it looks like the Audi was either tapped into a spin or spun due to the driver. Let's have a look from this angle. There is the spinning Audi. Altzen goes up the inside and then suddenly finds a car coming across his bar. Dear, big impact that. The Audi spinning across its path. And so it's not just the fact that you've got 2 badly damaged cars by the side of the road, it's also the debris there you can see on the track. So big impact, and van der Linde out of the race. Calvin van der Linde, last year's champion, and Uwe Altzen looking remarkably sanguine about all of this. Crash helmet off, but there's not quite the normal demonstrative behaviour from Uwe Altzen. So 1 corner into the race, 2 badly damaged cars, drivers saying, yeah, I'm okay, but it's more resignation, I think, from Altzen than anything else. Calvin van der Linde in the car that he shares with Stefan Vakabauer, the other driver involved, and the vehicles there, the circuit vehicles, will take them back to the team. Right, van der Linde was round the outside of Sven Barth. There might have been a very, very slight nudge, and here comes Altzen. Just went the wrong way, didn't he? Because as he tried to steer out of it, van der Linde was coming back across the road. Others end up scattering in avoidance. But one of those situations where a car spins and the pack scatters left and right. Altzen, despite his years of experience, just called it wrong. And look at the damage done to the front of the BMW, the wheel broken and buckled. Lots of damage to the Audi R8 LMS Ultra as well. So those cars need moving. And the Schubert team not at all amused. So Altzen's car with big, big damage. Claudia Hürtgen therefore denied a drive. And meantime at Schutz Motorsport, everybody looking on to see Klaus Backler, having grabbed the race lead, then be denied the opportunity to pull away. Now, of course, going into the second stint, that car goes to Martin Raginger, who is probably one of the quicker drivers in that other stint. There's the track sweeper. But the point about this being that in some cases, there's a differing pace of driver. Raginger and Backler, one of the more evenly matched combinations. And with an extra formation lap and now a safety car period in this stint, it is decreasing the amount of racing laps these drivers can do, and therefore it's putting the onus on those really in the second stint to see how they are going to be able to affect the result of the race. So there's still a lot to shake out of this, that's for sure. And so from 21 starters, we're down to 19 circulating at the back of the pack into Lennart Marianec. This is Philip Geipel's view. The race order, just to catch up on that, Backler leading then in the Porsche. Team second, Geipel third, Basseng fourth, Christer Jons up to fifth, sixth is Fabian Hampret's Bentley, seventh now it is Edward Sandstrom's Audi that won yesterday, in eighth place Jens Klingman's surviving Schubert BMW, in ninth place Sven Barth in the better of the Corvettes, and then in 10th place it's Ben Schneider. 11th is Daniel Kalvitz. He's worked his way up quite nicely because Kalvitz was a long way back on the grid. He also retired from yesterday, but having started 16th, he's up to 11th. In 12th place, it's Rango van der Zande. In 13th is Stef Dusseldorp. In 14th is Vincent Abril. 15th, Luca Ludwig, making progress. At 16th, in 22, it is Florian Scholze. 17th, his teammate, Florian Strauss. 18th is Patrick Assenheimer, and then in 19th, Lennart Marianec. With out of the race then, van der Linde and Uwe Altzen. Calvin van der Linde for Audi, Uwe Altzen for BMW out of the race. So it's Porsche leading the way, Klaus Bachler for ADAC Motorsport. And for others, there's nothing to crow about. 2 damaged cars already, and the safety car out early doors. On board with Fabian Hampracht, hard at work in the number 8 Bentley. Switching to this team and this car this year. Fabian Hampracht, former single-seater racer, drove in Formula Ford and Formula 3. He's had a spell in the Lamborghini Blancpain Super Trofeo. He's raced in the International GT Open Championship as well as this, and the 2 Blancpain GT Championships, the Sprint and the Endurance. So he's an experienced driver. And let's see what progress he can make. If you think back to Spa when it was wet, the Bentleys didn't really excel. And yesterday they struggled a bit in the conditions. Got held by one of them, the Lukas Stolz car, having a spin early on in the race. So the safety car stays out for another lap. Over the timing line they go, and the race leader remains Klaus Bachler. But look forward to the next stint when you've got Raginger versus, if you go through the order, Jordan Lee Pepper versus Rahul Fry versus Florian Stoll. It's going to be an interesting second stint, but I'm tempted to put some money on Raginger at the moment because that's a very strong combination. They have to carry extra weight because of it, 30 kilos, but Raginger and Bachler is certainly a strong combination. Now, the incident between Kelvin van der Linde and Sven Barth is under investigation. There was a nudge, even if it was only a slight one, and the officials want to have a look at that just to see whether there was anything that could have been done differently and whether it was a racing incident or anybody was fundamentally to blame. I've got to say, in those conditions on cold tyres, I would suspect it's really a racing incident. However, the race officials are going to have a look at it. So the field now turning its way up through the mid part of the lap. There is the questionable Corvette in the sense. That's the car that Sven Barth's behind the wheel of, and it's under investigation for the incident between it and the number 1 Audi. So one of Christian Abt's cars out, one of the Schubert team cars out. And the field trying to maintain some temperature in the tyres. The road, of course, drying out all the time. Spray when the cars kick up. Even at this pace, you wouldn't expect too much, but there's barely any now. So I think before the end of the race, slicks will be the way to go, and therefore it's probably worth these drivers staying out for as long as they can, so that when they do pit, they've managed to get to the end of the window, and then they'll have a better idea of what the weather will do, and they should be able to get the right tyre choice to go to the end of the race. No indication yet that the safety car is due in, and their crippled cars still being retrieved. With broken suspension, of course, they can't just be towed out of the way, they've got to be lifted, and there you can see the extent of the damage as the wheel limply dangles down from the front left corner. Over the timing line goes the rest of the field. And of course, what this has also done is deny 1 or 2 drivers an opportunity to make some progress. But Luca Ludwig, even though he had to take evasive action from the back of the grid, is up to 15th. He and Sebastian Asch, second generation racers both. Luca, the son of the legendary Klaus Ludwig. Sebastian Asch, son of Roland Asch, himself a former touring car champion in Germany. And there was a shot pre-race on the grid of the 2 dads talking and giving the officials a hard time about yesterday and the safety car incident. What happened yesterday was that you had 4 cars that stayed out behind the safety car under the pit window. Everybody else dived into the pit lane, and they were still playing catch-up, having returned to the track as the race went green, with the other 4 drivers way up the road. But because green flags were out, they started to overtake, but they weren't allowed to overtake until they got to the safety car line. That's where it all fell apart. So some did it properly, some were penalised for not doing, and it was a very lengthy process because the race finished at about 2:30. The result came out at 5 minutes to 10. So this is Klaus Bachler's view. Wiper still on. Safety car leading them round. The yellow flags wave. Are we yet in a position where we can go racing? This incident has eaten into virtually the entirety of the first period of the race, hasn't it? Here's another look at the start. Bachler defending the inside line. Geipel may not have been quite so quick away, but he did a good job of defending as they went down to turn 1 into the Mercedes arena. Some drivers going a little bit wider, looking for traction on the outside line, and sprinting up towards the left-hander into turn 2, but it all goes wrong further up the road because the Audi of van der Linde gets crossed up. and then into the melee piles Uveralsen. So car number 13 is under investigation, as well as the incident between number 13 and number 1. That's the next message we've got on the timing screen, and that's what's relayed to the teams as well. Have a look again. Is there a nudge? There is, but it's such a slight one, even bearing in mind there's load on the cars as they're going through a corner and on a wet track as well, and bang, there's the contact. Now, the reason that number 13 is under investigation a second time, the Corvette, is for overtaking under the safety car, allegedly. So Sven Barth is under investigation for his part in that incident we just witnessed in replay again, and also for overtaking under the safety car. And once again, Luca Ludwig is under investigation for overtaking under the safety car. So 21, the Mercedes, which is not having a happy weekend, put to the back of the grids for being underweight, penalised in race 1 for a safety car infringement. The same potentially is happening again here. All of this is keeping the race director busy, even if the actual on-track activity isn't. We're still behind the safety car in this clean-up operation as the cars work their way on lap 7 now through the Mercedes arena, out of which the Kelvin van der Linde Audi is being retrieved. Right, the safety car is in this lap, so we finally will get to some proper racing. And the clean-up operation just about done, so as soon as that Audi is out of harm's way, it will be good to go once again. The safety car peels through the hairpin, the yellow lights still flash, and we'll get ready to go racing. Porsche versus Audi. One lone Porsche, 4 Audis queued up behind it. Safety car in this lap then, and we will get ready to go racing in this second race of the weekend for the ADAC GT Masters Championship, the second race of the weekend. Taste of GT racing for local fans, where there is a World Endurance Championship to come later in the month. There's the Blancpain Endurance Series here in September. And so, speed building now. Cars accelerate up towards the chicane, and the safety car's lights are out, saying that it will indeed come in this time. And so let's get ready to go racing again, and the pit window is not far away from starting. But for now, Klaus Bachler needs to try to make a break over the opposition. Nicky Thiem, the on-the-road winner yesterday, going after him as the cars now sprint their way up towards the timing line, and at the end of lap 7 it's the green flag that flies once more. We go racing. Leader goes through. Klaus Bachler 4/10 up on the opposition. In second place behind him is Nicky Thiem. Philip Geipel runs third, and then 4th and 5th Mark Bossang ahead of Christer Jöns as they go down towards turn 1, and Jöns in the white Audi round the outside there. That's brave stuff. If he gets the outside line for that corner with the inside for turn 2, and Christer Jöns then goes up the inside line, and he's done it. He's gone by. Up to 4th place goes the white Audi of Christer Jöns. Now, what progress, if any, is Luca Ludwig making? As around the outside there, look goes number 7, Vincent Abril in the Bentley. He's ahead for the moment of Steph Dusseldorf. And now we've had a change for the race lead. Tim has got himself up past Bachler, but Bachler fights back, coming out of turn 4. Down to the hairpin, the leading quartet has won, and Bachler takes over the lead, runs Thiem out wide. Nicky tries to stand his ground, but he has to slot back in behind Bachler. Geipel runs third at the moment. Bossang is 4th, and the Audi's looking quicker than the Porsche now. There's a drive-through penalty for Luca Ludwig for overtaking under the safety car. The race leaders are side by side, and round the outside where there might be some more traction goes Nicky Thiem, and into the lead of the race. Good move. Nicky Thiem takes over the lead, but there's a drive-through penalty for Ludwig for overtaking under the safety car. So that compromises the race even as it gets going, effectively, as the leaders power their way up towards the chicane. So Klaus Bachler, having dropped back then behind the Audi, has now got more of them queuing up behind him as Bossang is up to 3rd, 4th is Geipel, 5th is Jöns, and then up the inside in 6th in the Bentley is Fabian Hamprecht, who gets blocked by Christer Jöns. He then goes to the outside line. Jöns there tries to make a move up on the inside. There's a drive-through as well for Sven Barth in the Corvette. So the 2 drivers under investigation for safety car infringements, being penalised with drive-throughs. Over the timing line they come. There is still some spray being kicked up, and it's about 3 wide in the mid-pack as they go down towards the first corner. So Nicky Thiem it is who leads the way. Bachler 2nd, Bossang is 3rd, Geipel runs 4th ahead of then Jöns and Hamprecht, who are virtually side by side, and there's a spin. That's Kylwitz who's got it wrong. Barth goes off in avoidance. Daniel Kylwitz facing the wrong way. Everybody picks a way past, and the race carries on, at least for Kylwitz now, but a long way down the order. So Nicky Thiem, having grabbed the advantage, is not really pulling away here. runs down towards the hairpin as Klaus Bachler thinks about making a move up on the inside. Can he do it? Not there, he can't, but again, look, Nicky Thiem goes wider, finds the extra traction on the outside line. Fastest lap of the race, incidentally, Renger van der Zande in number 33 Mercedes, who is working his way up through in 11th place at the moment, but he's got more work to do, but he's lapping very rapidly indeed, possibly because he wasn't involved in traffic for about one lap, and that's played into his hands. He had a bit of clear road. Up front, though, Thiem leads Bachler, Basseng still third, and there Edward Sandstrom in the second of the orange Audis, looking to try to get his way up through the traffic now as well. Expect Luca Ludwig in this time to get that drive-through out of the way, and what he then needs is another safety car really to buy back into the race. Up the inside goes Sandstrom, muscles his way up alongside Hamprecht. He's gone through, but contact between the pair of them. Sandstrom gains the place. Now looking for a way by Jens Klingmann in the number 80 BMW as they work their way into the Coca-Cola curve. Well, Ludwig stays out, although Sven Bart comes in. Over the timing line, side by side for the race lead. Nicky Thiem in the Audi on the inside is defending, and although he's lost the lead, Klaus Bachler has certainly not given up the fight, has he? He's trying to get back up alongside the Audi, tries to get the cut back on the outside line going into turn 2, but he can't do it, so he goes to the inside there instead, heading through turns 2 into turn 3. And then, as they work their way to the end of the Mercedes arena, can he get up the inside line? The answer is no. Nicky Thiem defends. Bachler, now the quickest man on the circuit, so having lost the lead, he's certainly been stung into action, and Thiem is not getting away. The rain is starting to fall again, just a little, but it is starting to drizzle once more, down to the hairpin. They've only got 5 minutes before the pit window opens here. Are they going to dive in early and get the stops out of the way? I suspect they'll stay out for as long as they can in most cases. Philipp Geipel running in 4th place on the back of Mark Basseng. There is Jens Klingmann fending off Ben Schneider. Who knows his way around this circuit in a GT car. Victorious here in the past, and of course Ben Schneider has been good here in years previously in the DTM as well. Race leaders then now powering their way up towards the chicane, and a replay here of more drama involving Fabian Hamprecht, this time with Klingmann, and he gets turned around at the first corner, so Bentley number 8 rotates. Klingmann having a go up the inside, and the net result was that Fabian Hamprecht came off worse. The race leader in the meantime, Nicky Thiem, powering his way up towards the start and finish line, keeping at bay for the moment at least, Klaus Bachler. Now that gap has widened a little bit, hasn't it? It's up to over a second now as they come over the line. In 3rd place still is Mark Basseng, Philipp Geipel still staying with him, and then in 5th place, having one of his better showings of the year, Christer Jens, but he will lose places later on because Andreas Weishaupt, inexperienced driver, gentleman racer really, moving up from the Nordschleifer events into racing at this level for the first time this year, so expect number 3 Audi to fall away in the next stint, unfortunately. The race leader, however, is still Nicky Thiem, but he's getting away now. Klaus Bachler falling back just a little into the clutches of Mark Basseng as they come this time through the Mercedes arena. Thiem has now done the fastest lap of the race, and he is getting away down to the hairpin. On board with Geipel, you're looking at the back of Mark Basseng's car, the former GT1 world champion. Klaus Bachler running second in the yellow Porsche just up the road ahead of him. And as they work their way into the Bilstein curve, and now the gap between the top 2 at the start of the lap was over a second. But if Bachler has got to defend, then he's going to lose more ground. And up the curve there is Christer Jens in the background. Look at the lead now that Thiem is building up. Now what is the road surface doing? Is it getting any drier? Is it getting much wetter? The spots of rain we had a moment ago just about disappeared again. The water on the windscreen is spray. Wiper on from Geipel. He's right on the back of Basseng as they break for the corner. Absolutely nose to tail. The Yakko Racing Audi rattles over the curb. Geipel will give way to Rahel Frey, who was in action a couple of weeks ago at the Red Bull Ring in the Audi Sport TT Cup. And there, Christer Jens aiming to make the most out of his stint as he gets right into the mix. But behind them, Edward Sandstrom looking pretty menacing as well now. The leaders come by with the gap between the top 2 up to 1.8 seconds now. Thiem getting away just a little bit more from Klaus Bachler as they drop down towards turn 1. Into the pit lane is coming Luca Ludwig then to serve the drive-through penalty. So Ludwig had got himself up to 12, but he needs some heroics from Sebastian Asch and also a safety car really to bring them back into the hunt here. The looking back from Klaus Battler's Porsche. Mark Baseng is behind. Baseng in turn has got Geipel menacing him, and there is Ludwig back into the race, and he's lost out as well, look, to the other car that had to serve a drive-through. So Sven Bart just ahead of him, and Luca Ludwig tries to find a way past the Corvette as they head up the hill towards turn 2. All of this through the Mercedes arena. The leading Audi, though, getting away up front. So there it is Nicky Thiem pulling clear of Battler. Then in third spot, Mark Baseng, and behind him in 16, Philipp Geipel keeping at bay for the moment, Christer Jürgens. On board with Battler. Ahead of him, disappearing up the road, is Nicky Thiem. Battler to give way to Martin Ragginger, Thiem to give way to Jordan Lee Pepper, last year's Sirocco R Cup champion, who is certainly no slouch, but is not as experienced a GT racer as Martin Ragginger. So Ragginger and Battler, one of the best combinations. There's another. Klingmann and Baumann, both evenly matched as well. So that BMW you can anticipate, I think, to come on strong in the second stint of the race. Behind is Ben Schneider, who will give way to Harry Prokschik. Schneider definitely the quicker of the two in that car, but Prokschik again certainly isn't slow. Up towards the line they come, and the lead gap is up to 2 seconds now, as Nicky Thiem, who's been a race winner in TCR this year, third in the Spa 24 Hours this season, leads the way. Schneider all over the back now of Klingmann as they head off down towards turn 1. Dominic Baumann will take over the BMW. So that is another competitive car. And then behind, you've got 33, look, just creeping back into shot, the orange and white car collection run Mercedes. That's Alexander Matschul to take over. Renger van der Zande doing this stint, and Schneider trying to force the Mercedes up the inside of the BMW there, but Jens Klingmann hangs onto the place. The Schubert BMW still ahead as they work their way out of the Mercedes arena. So the BMW staves off the SLS AMG GT3 as they come down towards the hairpin. The BMW Z4 that's out of homologation for GT3 at the end of the year, the new M6 due to come on stream for next season. But it's the Z4 that conquered all in the Spa 24 Hours from Mark VDS Racing. Here, the Schubert car keeping at bay the HP Racing, Harry Prokschik Racing Mercedes with Ben Schneider at the wheel. The pit window is about to open because we have done 25 minutes. The pit window opens now, and drivers in some cases getting ready, in other cases not yet fussed. Klingmann up towards the chicane, keeping Ben Schneider behind him. Up front, Nicky Thiem in a moment will turn his way up out of the chicane and accelerate over the timing line. As he does so, Klaus Battler falling away just a little bit. Steadily, the gap widens lap after lap. In third place, doing a good job, Mark Baseng. In fourth place, Philipp Geipel. Fifth, Christer Jürgens. So it's Audi, Porsche, Audi, Audi, Audi. Then in sixth place, it is Audi, Edward Sandstrom. Seventh and eighth, the BMW and Mercedes battle there. Jens Klingmann ahead of Ben Schneider, and heading down towards turn 1 this time. There was another big challenge being made as Geipel and Jürgens were together, and Jürgens up the inside them. Into the pits has just come Stef Dusseldorp. So Stef Dusseldorp giving way early to Nico Bastien. Intriguing. Stef Dusseldorp, I would have thought, would have been the gun in that car. Nico Bastien not quite as experienced for Mercedes as Stef Dusseldorp, but anyway, the team elect to bring the car in early. So in comes 99, get the stop done. Meantime, the leaders work their way out of the hairpin. The wet tyres on the number 99 Mercedes. And a suggestion that they're going to change rubber either. So car 99 drops down the order. Is in the pits, and so will fall down as a consequence of this. Pit stop 65 seconds, counting down, and away it goes now, back into the race. So as it gets to pit out, that should hit 0, and the 65 seconds adhered to. In fact, a little bit more than that, so just over the 65 seconds. You can see the clock there, so it's safe. No suggestion of a penalty for that car. Problem for the leader. Nicky Thiem slows coming out of the last corner. He's missed pit in, so he's got to limp a whole lap round. What has happened for the leading Audi? Nicky Thiem's Christian Ab racing car slowly trickles past the pit lane, and that means that Klaus Battler is back into the lead of the race. And now the Audi picks up pace as though Nicky Thiem had to do a reset or something. He's had an electrical glitch. Well, it's picked up speed once more, but it's lost a whole heap of places. It's going to be down in 9th spot now. And can Nicky Tim respond from there? More for the pit lane. Patrick Assenheimer's Corvette is in. Also in has Cam 22, which is the Florian Scholzer Nissan, and Tim has clearly got more problems because he now pulls it off the road, and it looks as though this is another of the ADAC cars heading for retirement. He's back on track, so briefly getting off the road, I think, to keep out of people's way. The car that was leading, the car that had done the fastest lap of the race, now is in strife, and Christer Jørgens up on the inside of Philip Geipel, and he goes through, so that's now for third place. Jørgens goes ahead of Geipel, the AB Racing Audi ahead of the Jacko Racing car. Up front then, Bachler inherits the lead again. You've got Mark Basseng running in second spot. And then third and fourth. Now Christer Jørgens ahead of Philip Geipel as they work their way up towards the chicane. This is lap number 15, but real dramas for Nicky Tim. And even if he can get the car back to the pit lane, I would be fearful that retirement looms for that car. Behind, you can see the BMW of Jens Klingmann keeping bench, Schneider at bay, but the Mercedes tries to get the run up the inside. Can't do it. Klingmann defends into the Coca-Cola curve, out of which they come. Back into the race goes then the 22 Nissan. Now with Dominic Joost at the wheel of it, we should have Diego Alessi at the wheel of 69 Corvette. He was very spectacular, brutally so, in fact, with a couple of incidents early in yesterday's race. But on track, Klingmann defending from Schneider down towards the first corner. Vincent Abril has just brought Bentley 7 into the pit lane. So his 65-second stop begins. And that graphic showing if people are adhering to the right pit lane time. 22, though, is under investigation for speeding in the pit lane now. So that is Dominic Joost who has taken it over. Whether it was on the way in or the way out, we're not told. That's pit lane speeding, and there is the sorry tale of a weekend opportunity missed. Yesterday they won on the road, today leading and retiring. Nicky Tim is out of the race, and there's a drive-through penalty for the 22 Nissan. Then now Dominic Joost and Florian Scholzer's car gets a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane. The fastest lap of the race, by the way, on track, now done by Christer Jørgens, released from behind Philip Geipel. He's charging on. Jørgens aiming to make the most out of this stint. Andreas Weishaupt, I'm afraid, not as quick, so the car will drop back in the next part of the race. Meantime, Schneider getting a bit fed up of looking at the back of Jens Klingmann. The road is definitely drying. The lap times continue to come down. And there with a yellow flag, bringing the driver's attention to the parked team car. The safety car is being deployed, and this, in the pit window, is going to be a real consternation. Lots of teams say, right, we'll pit now. Others have stayed out, so who has stayed out on track? Bachler has stayed out, and he's about to get picked up by the safety car. Geipel has stayed out. But it's far better to get your pit stop out of the way while the safety car is on track, and there are just about everybody else that haven't yet pitted heading down the pit road. Now this, potentially, is going to bring the 99 Mercedes into the mix. 66 has gone by. Daniel Kylvitz, he has not yet stayed out. And I'm waiting now for the first car that has made a pit stop to come over the timing line. Now, of course, the pace of the race is reduced under the safety car. So Bachler, they called it wrong, I'm afraid, here, Schutz Motorsport. The safety car was called for, admittedly, probably as he got to pit in, but he's not been able to dive in, and therefore the opportunity to win the race, I fear, is lost. It's going to be between now, the race situation, these drivers that have come in this time, or those that have already pitted. So there, look, Bachler and Geipel together, but the pace compromised behind the safety car. The safety car brought out for a second time because of Nicky Tim having to abandon the Audi by the side of the road. Any tactics involved in that from Audi's point of view? Can't believe it, because it's not going to help anybody from the ADAC Racing team. So pit stop cycle through. Everybody with the green is good to go because they're just slightly over the 65 seconds. Slower stop relative from Prochik. So number 7 has just gone through, which is now at the wheel of it Lukas Stolz, who's had a win this year. So that's going to bring that car into the mix. And also it will bring 99 closer to the front, not to the very front, because they're still going to be behind some of the traffic. Likewise, Diego Alessi there. Sebastian Asch joins the race. And we've got a couple under investigation already. 33, Van der Zande is under investigation. As in, now why is Philip Geipel staying out? This is all a bit of a mystery. In comes Bachler. In also comes Daniel Kylvitz. Philip Geipel staying out. But it's not going to be long, surely, before everybody is closing up behind him. Anyway, Geipel takes over the race lead. Also under investigation is 99, so that's the Dusseldorp, now Nico Bastien Mercedes. So back of the stops, Martin Ragginger is ready to get on board. And the 65 seconds counting down then for number 36 Porsche. So as the field continues to circulate, this is going to bring number 23 into contention now, with Mark Gassner at the wheel of it. Raoul Fry standing waiting, but I'm sure they brought that car in, or will have brought that car in too late, because they can't do proper lap times under the safety car. Admittedly, the whole pace of the race is reduced, but they want to be in the pits getting that stop done, surely. Calvert drops down the order as others go past. Number 2 is under investigation, which is Nicky Tim. Interesting, is that for where he's parked the car? And 99, I mentioned, is under investigation. Right, there's Martin Ragginger's Porsche then on its way back into the race. He's got work to do. That car, by staying out the extra lap, has lost quite a lot of ground now, so Martin Ragginger has got work to do. That is for sure. And Andreas Werth takes over the white Corvette from Daniel Kalvitz, and he will feed back in as well. So there is the leader, number 16, but yet to stop. And behind is going to be 23, which has made a pit stop. So Mark Gassner is now in the hunt, in the lead of the race, having stopped at exactly the right time. Early in the window, and then the safety car playing into his hands. 24 there, which is Florian Stoll at the wheel. He's taken over from Mark Baseng. So that car has made a stop. And surely Philip Geipel's got to come in this time. You can see that he's lost the lead effectively now. In he comes, but when that car rejoins, it's going to lose lots and lots of places. I reckon they brought the Schutz Porsche in a lap late. This is 2 laps late. So Geipel down the pit lane, but after yesterday's good result, I think it's unravelled a bit here for Jacko Racing. Over the timing line then now goes the race order. So 24, which is Florian Stoll, will take over the lead from Andreas Weishaupt. Up to 3rd goes Dobic in number 100. In 4th place now it's going to be Baumann. 5th will be Krotchik. In 6th place Alexander Matschel. In 7th place it is going to be Martin Ragginger. And I was telling you a lie when I mentioned that Gassner was going to be in the mix. He is in 9th on the road, now 8th. Because of this car being in the pit lane. And what was throwing me was the other Nissan had got itself behind the race leader. So that was Florian Scholzer, who'd had to serve a drive-through, that had crept into the mix, but out of position. So away goes Rahal Fry. Pit window is now closed. Everybody has made their mandatory stops. And it means that we've now got 24 Audi in the lead of the race, which is in the hands of Florian Stoll. Behind is number 3 now, Andreas Weishaupt. And 3rd is going to be Daniel Dobic, yesterday's winner. 4th, though, is 80, Dominic Baumann in the BMW. I'm tempted to suggest that could be a winning car still, because against some of the opposition up front, Baumann is a more experienced driver and very quick. So don't rule out that car if and when we go racing. So again, the recovery team has to get itself across the track to go to Nicky Thiem, whose abandonment of that car has not really helped, has it? You can see the Nissan has been released now, so that is 22. Released from the safety car. It has to try and rejoin the tail of the field without going dangerously quickly. And there is the race order behind. So you can see it's Stoll ahead of Weishaupt, ahead of Dobic, ahead of Baumann. Then Harry Protchik running in 5th. In 6th now is going to be Alexander Matschel. So Dominic Baumann and Jens Klingmann for a race win, a real possibility here. As far as the Jacko Racing team is concerned, having left its car out for so long, it's going to drop a long, long way down the order. I'm just trying to work out why they decided to leave it so late, because it's always better to get your pit stop done under the safety car because you're losing less time. The race isn't live as such. So it's very odd that they left it out for 2 laps. The first one you could possibly explain because it was a late call from the officials to get the safety car out, but missing another lap makes no sense at all. Philip Geipel agrees, he shakes his head as well, so big frustration that it was either a radio problem perhaps, he didn't hear a message, or that the team didn't call him in, but Geipel having a bit of a word with the team there, saying he should have been in, should have been in a bit sooner. So the safety car stays out, the recovery of Mickey Team's car continues, and there the field turning its way up through the Mercedes arena once more. There is Rahul Fry, who is now in 17th place. Now granted, she's been able to catch back up on the tail, but when the race restarts and everybody tries to gain ground, she's got more people to pass. Down towards the hairpin. Nicky Team's car, thankfully now finally on the back of the flatbed, so we will be able to go racing again pretty soon. But under investigation is that lap from Nicky Team as to why the car was stopping and starting and why it wasn't perhaps parked sooner. Why did he try to limp on? Well, the answer to try to limp back to the pit lane, one assumes, but in the end, climbing uphill, the car expiring. Not that far from pit in, of course, but Nicky Team unable to restart it, having pulled onto the grass. Even if it could get going, he wouldn't be able to drive off the wet grass because of a lack of traction. 21 minutes, not giving us a lot of racing time here. And the clock continues to tick down. Up they go towards the chicane. And Rahul Fry with work to do. To the team you can hear in the background as the Audi works its way at the moment towards the approach of the pit lane there, but she of course stays out behind the safety car, just perhaps having a look at track conditions. Leader comes over the line then, Florian Stoll leading the way. Second place now Andreas Weishaupt, and third is Daniel Dobic, fourth Dominic Baumann, and this was another problem in the pits. A tyre change. Now, did they go on to slicks in the end? Has that been the gamble? Stay out until the end of the window and then go on to a different set of tyres. If we stay on the replay, no. But a new air gun having to be brought out, but it looks as though the answer for Jaco was to go to the very end of the window and then get slick tyres on. But no, because that wheel nut wouldn't come off, they've had to abandon the idea, I fear, of going on to slick. So the car is on wet, so the plan has not worked because of an uncooperative wheel nut. 99 is under investigation again. This is now Nico Bastien. Safety car in this time. Safety car in this lap. So we will go racing with about 18 minutes, 17 and a half minutes or so on the clock. Field turning its way up towards the Bilstein Curve. The fans look on from the VIP lounge there, and with the weather improving, cloud lifting, the field ready to go racing once more. But is the road going to get dry enough to give anybody the thought of coming in for slick tyres? I don't think it is, not with only 18 and a half minutes to go. They'll make the best out of this. Christer Jørns did the fastest lap of the race in his stint in the Audi that is now in second place. The white car of Andreas Weishaupt, anticipate that to fall away a little bit now. An inexperienced driver against the exalted company in which he runs. We go racing once more. You can't overtake until you get up towards the timing line, so everybody has to hold station as they work their way out of the Coca-Cola curve, and now they can floor the throttle and accelerate off down towards turn one, where Florian Stoll leads the way. Andreas Weishaupt is in second spot as they come down towards turn one, with Daniel Dobic third, and then fourth, the man to watch, I think, here, Dominic Baumann. Rahul Fry gets up towards the line, and now she can think about attacking. Baumann pulls back in again, under attack from Harry Protchik as well. So now Florian Stoll tries to get away. How long will it be before overtaking is possible? It's possible right now. Through on the inside comes Harry Prochik, getting up alongside there as they work their way down towards turn 2 and turn 3, but Dominic Baumann repels him. Now we've got more drive-through penalties being copped. One is for Bastien and another is for Alexander Matschul. And it's all to do with a pit lane infringement. So Article 39.1, a pit lane infringement for Nico Bastien and also for Alexander Matschul. Now the two drivers in the two Mercedes, 33 and 99, both getting penalties. But up front, Dominic Baumann hanging on to the plate. And look at Martin Ragginger as well. Don't rule him out for a race win yet because he's there in the mix as well. Ragginger has got himself up past Matschul, so he's on the tail of Harry Prochik. Ragginger shone in the first stint yesterday, and the Porsche comes up the inside, makes the move going into the Ad Van Bergen, or does it? Well, he had the inside line, but the grunt of the Mercedes keeps it ahead. But Ragginger is going to be another man to watch. Him and Baumann, I think, in the red and black BMW. Dominic Baumann, they are the two drivers here that could start to make some progress. In fairness to Andreas Weishaupt, he's had a good first lap on the restarters there. Ragginger makes his move up the inside in the background. Nico Bastian's trying to get up the inside of the Nissan, but he's got to serve a drive-through as here they come up towards the timing line. Can Ragginger drag the Porsche back up to the podium? He's on the inside line here as they work their way down towards turn 1. If he brakes later, he should be able to go through. The leader is still Florian Stoll. Weishaupt is second, third is Dobic, fourth remains Dominic Baumann, and Harry Prochik is still hanging on to that 5th place. Ragginger doing everything he can to find a way through. He's on the outside line at turn 2. He's going to have to do this, I think, under braking because Prochik has got the torque and he's got the grunt, but now through does go the Porsche. So Ragginger gains 5th place. Alexander Matschul is behind, under attack from Luca Stoltz now in the Bentley, the better placed Bentley, with Clement Schmidt down in the 11th spot. But down they come then now towards the hairpin. Hard on the brakes, they will turn this time and work their way through the corner. So now Ragginger is hunting down the BMW just up the road ahead of him. We have had Andreas Wirth back into the pits. A disappointing weekend for the Corvette team, but on track, Ragginger now is all over the back of the BMW. He is an absolute man on a mission, isn't he now? Martin Ragginger, having lost out by coming in a lap late. There's the Callaway Corvette in the pit lane looking all rather forlorn, as though that's going to be retirement. And did it get involved in a scrape somewhere? Well, yes, it did. It got a big whack in the back from number 12, which was Jakob Knoll's BMW. So with rear damage, effectively out of the race then now is Karlwitz. And Andreas Wirth, having taken over from him, is the man behind the wheel in the pits. Now up towards the last corner, the Coca-Cola curve, comes the Porsche in the hands of Ragginger. He's on the back still of Dominic Baumann. He's not yet found a way through, and a big cheer deserved for Andreas Weishaupt, still hanging on to his 2nd place ahead of Daniel Dobic. Still looking good for Audi. Down the pit lane is coming, incidentally, Nico Bastien to serve his drive-through. And now the battle is on for 2nd place because you can see Daniel Dobic getting a bit more toey in his quest to find a way through. Weishaupt goes a little bit wide, leaves open the door up the inside, therefore goes Daniel Dobic, and then behind them, Baumann and Ragginger are together. The change has happened for 2nd place. Through goes Daniel Dobic in number 100. And round the outside of Baumann tries to go Ragginger in the background, but it won't be long, I think, before those two are up and past the white Audi. Now up front, it is, of course, Florian Stoll leading the way. He has got the clear road ahead of him, so Stoll able to lap in the 39s, everybody else in the 40s because they're involved in battles. But if they were to get clear road, could Baumann or indeed Ragginger go after the race leader, whose advantage is not a huge one. But Ragginger needs to get on with this. Baumann struggling to make progress, and so if the Porsche is quicker, he's got to pounce. Martin Ragginger, former Spa 24 Hours winner, the Austrian driver, powering his way up towards the Ad Van Bergen. And as he turns through, ahead, it is at the moment a 1-2 for the MS Racing Audis, the orange and white cars. 3rd, Andreas Weishaupt, who is falling away, who is being caught by Dominic Baumann. And so now, look, 3rd, 4th, 5th together as they come through the chicane. The move is about to come, I think, from Dominic Baumann. Ragginger staying with him, and Baumann looks to the inside, sort of dived out and brake late, but then that wasn't really on, so tiptoes his way through the last corner. Onto the power they come, over the start and finish line. The leader remains Florian Stoll, ahead of his teammate Daniel Dobic, and the gap is down fractionally that time to 1.6 seconds. And then effectively being delayed here. You've got Dominic Baumann and Martin Ragginger, with Harry Prochin catching back up again in 6th place. But Andreas Weishaupt doing a good job. He's not weaving all over the road. He's just defending properly. Baumann tries to make a move up on the inside. That's at turn 2. Can't do it. Still keeping his place is Andreas Weishaupt in the white Abt Racing Audi. And as the Porsche that runs in 5th spot of Martin Ragginger gets right back onto the tail of the BMW, where and how and when is this going to sort itself out? Weishaupt goes wide. That doesn't really help Baumann too much. What about Ragginger for the inside line down to the hairpin? Can't do it there either. Was that spray or was that smoke coming from the front of the Porsche that time as he braked for the hairpin? Yesterday it was a broken radiator that put the car out when it made contact with a spinning Bentley. But here, out of the Bilstein curva, it remains 3rd, 4th, 5th, the same order. Weishaupt ahead of Baumann, ahead of Ragginger. And they're losing touch, look, with the top 2. Baumann struggling to get properly close enough to make the move now. The rest looking on from the pit wall as uphill they come. So the 2nd place car, that of Daniel Dobic, hunting down the race leader. And you can see that 3rd, 4th, 5th are still very close indeed, but not yet able to think about making the move. Surprisingly, it's Dominic Baumann. Last time around, Daniel Dobic did the fastest lap of the race as the road dries a little. Weishaupt slides wide, but the leaders come up over the timing line. The gap is up this time, 2.2 seconds. So Florian Stoll responding to the challenge of Daniel Dobic. Ragginger pulls out to have a look at Baumann. If Dominic Baumann can't get past the Audi, Ragginger thinks it might be his turn to have a look instead. Only 11 minutes of the race to go, so Ragginger needs to get on with this. He's up alongside the BMW on the outside line, coming into turn 2. He's not going to be able to drive all the way around the outside, but he gets the cut back inside line into turn 3. Great move that up the inside. Martin Ragginger goes through. That gives him 4th place. And the Porsche, which does look a little bit hot and bothered, continues its progress up the order. Baumann tries to fight back, but Martin Ragginger is able to defend as they work their way to the hairpin, and the BMW almost into the back of the Porsche. Ragginger gets forced a little bit wide, but perversely he'll find a bit more traction there and comes through. I'm still concerned as to whether that's spray coming off the front of the Porsche or whether it's steam from the engine bay. Everybody in the Schutz garage looking on. If it's water touching a hot engine, then it's nothing too serious, but if it's coming from inside the engine, if it's a water leak and it's hot water being sprayed, that's a big problem. Now there, look, how close did Dominic Baumann get down at the hairpin, touching the tail of the Porsche. But Martin Ragginger withstood all of that, and now he's off in pursuit of number 3, Andreas Weishaupt. The fastest car on the road at the moment is Florian Stoll, who did the best lap last time of 38.1. But what can Ragginger do? Now that he's been released, he's caught up to the back of Weishaupt. It's only his car, it's only the Porsche that shows that sort of effect of the spray or the water coming from the front. Over the line he goes. Now that lap from Ragginger was a 38.7, but into the 37s now is Florian Stoll. So Ragginger still not lapping quickly enough as they drop down towards turn 1. Now can he do his demon move here? Wide into turn 2 and then get the cut back and up the inside down to turn 3. That'll be the plan. Ragginger, hard at work, slides the Porsche. He's not able to get through this time. Tries the outside against Weishaupt, who's way up on the curb as he tries to defend. Ragginger needs a tight line out of this corner to get up the inside down to the hairpin. There is definitely something coming onto the windscreen. He's gone through, he's up the place. He's into 3rd spot now, but Martin Ragginger's Porsche may have some drama. Certainly more than just spray, isn't it, that's coming onto the windscreen as he powers his way out of the hairpin now. And the Schutz team delighted with the fact that he's gained the place. So he's made the move, he's gained the spot. Martin Ragginger working his way then now up towards the Ad van Bogen. The next targets, though, are a little bit further up the road. He needs to be lapping a second or 2 seconds a lap quicker here to have any chance. It's taken him just that little bit too long to get through the traffic. It's one of the perils of parity. The balance of performance is such that because all the cars are made to be even, it's very hard to gain an advantage anywhere around the lap. And seeing that Ragginger has got past Weishaupt, now Baumann wants to have a go as well, a bit late in the day, and again he's blocked. Andreas Weishaupt having a great run here, but he's put himself on the wrong line. He'll go out wide, coming off the last corner. Over the timing line, they will go side by side. Dominic Baumann's on the inside in the BMW. The Huawei-backed car will have the inside run by Schubert's team. So it's Schubert versus Abt. It's BMW versus Audi. It's Baumann alongside Weishaupt, and he will go through under braking. Here comes Prochik round the outside of the Mercedes. Harry Prochik will have the outside for turn 1. That's the inside for turn 2, but he gets forced up onto the curb and drops back. Now he attacks again. Side by side into turn 2. Contact avoided, and Harry Prochik dives up the inside at turn 3. The line should be his, the place should be his, and it is indeed his. Through he goes now, up on the inside line. So down they come. They're heading into the hairpin this time around, and another challenge is made by Andreas Weishaupt to get the place back. That's brave stuff. Doesn't pay off for him. 7 minutes to go. We're on lap 28. And the Porsche, last time around, did a 38.5. Ragginger not yet as quick, but he did have to do some overtaking as the Audi's ahead. Now, what can he do on this lap? Martin Ragginger with clear road ahead. A win, I think, is out of the question. Yeah, the road is just too clear, isn't it, for too long up the road. So even getting second place won't be easy. He's about 3 seconds back here, is Martin Ragginger. Out of the chicane he comes. And do we need to get concerned about what we've seen coming out of the front of the Porsche? Didn't look that quick coming out of the chicane, I've got to say. Sebastian Asch, in the meantime, is down in 10th place. This is a weekend to forget for Zach Speed. They'll hang on to the championship lead, but it's certainly not been the weekend of the points haul that it should have been. They've been helped really by others having problems in yesterday's race. And so as far as Ragginger is concerned, he's got to finish well here to help Bachler. The same is true for Baumann and Klingmann in the championship. Ben Schneider there on the radio to Harry Prochik. 5 times DTM champion having done his work for the day. And where is the situation now, second and third? Well, actually the lead gap came down. Second to third went up. Ragginger falling away that time around from Daniel Dobic. So he's got himself up onto the podium. It's been another dramatic race. Maybe not quite as dramatic as yesterday's with the changing conditions, but it's still been lively as Prochik pounds his way out of the Mercedes arena, sliding as he does so. Heading now down towards the hairpin comes Prochik. He's up to 5th place now, having got himself up past Weishaupt. In the meantime, Sebastian Asch is on the move, and it's Clemens Schmidt up the road ahead of him. And there you can see the driver at work, but Sebastian Asch looking as though another place will fall to him. Sebastian Asch celebrated his 100th ADAC GT Masters race yesterday, if celebrates the right word, because a penalty ended up with him being dropped down the order. There is Klaus Ludwig, legendary German touring car champion, sports car champion, Le Mans winner, and Clemens Schmidt, who's moved away from the Porsche Carrera Cup and the Porsche Super Cup into the ADAC GT field this year, is busy at work. The road looking as though it's getting wetter again over on the far side of the circuit, so track conditions may be deteriorating once more. Over the timing line come the 2 leaders. The gap is up to 4.2 seconds. Second to third, 3 seconds. Well, Florian Stoll has just done the fastest lap of the race as well, a 1:37.299. As there, look, Baumann is getting back onto the tail of Ragginger. 4.5 minutes of the race remain now, but the gap is coming down just a little. Third and fourth, the gap is getting less and less all the while as they work their way down through the Mercedes arena. So Ragginger, having done the hard work, now might be coming under renewed pressure. Given that, we've got the BMW having been released from behind Andreas Weishaupt's Audi, being able to run at a good pace here and with a clearish road ahead for the time being. The gap's coming down. Mark Lassagne looking nervous. Florian Stoll, though, doing a very good job up front. The best that this car has had all year has been a 3rd place, but it looks like we're going to have another new winner. And what a weekend this would be for the MS Racing team. The first victory yesterday, admittedly on countback on the amended result, but 2 out of 2 potentially for the team. That will be a great result indeed. Heading up towards the chicane comes the leading car. The gaps are widening, and I think Ragginger now having to settle for 3rd place and realise that he will bring back points for Klaus Bachler. That's important in the championship. Now, where is Asch in the meantime? Sebastian Asch still running in 10th place. Rahul Fry, incidentally, 11th, so some work has been made on the restart of the race. Dominic Baumann is closing on Martin Ragginger, that's for sure, for 3rd and 4th places. Coming up over the timing line. Past the pits have gone the race leaders with the gap widening still. 5.5 seconds here. Daniel Dobic falling away from Florian Stoll. And for 3rd and 4th, Martin Ragginger is keeping Dominic Baumann at bay as well. They break now, turn their way through Mercedes Arena's first corner. And looking back from Martin Ragginger's Porsche, chasing on behind him, Dominic Baumann, but the BMW Z4 just not having the grunt around here, seemingly. In terms of extra weight on the cars, the Porsche carrying 30, and the Schubert Motorsports BMW 30 as well. That car's had 2 wins. The Porsche has had 1 victory right at the start of the season when Klaus Bachler was partnered by Christian Engelhardt. This weekend it's Martin Ragginger behind the wheel, and Ragginger from that shot not looking too far behind the second placed Audi once again. In fact, last time he did lap by 9/10 of a second quicker, so the gap is coming down second to third. There's going to be time for certainly 1, maybe even 2 more laps at the end of this, and 2 more laps would really help Ragginger. Won't do very much for the chances of Dobic for second place, but up front, Florian Stoll leading the way, that's all okay, but it's behind him where the second and third situation is still to be resolved. Out of the chicane comes now Dobic in the Audi. Ragginger hunting him down. The gap last time was 2.4 seconds. The leader goes across the line and will squeeze 2 more laps out of the race, but only just. Time for this and 1 more. It's going to be tight. Over the line, the gap 6.6 seconds first and second, then 1.3 seconds second to third. So Ragginger could yet get second place before the end. Possibly having Baumann bearing down on him has spurred Ragginger on even more, because he's picked up his pace, he's done another personal best lap, and he's lapped over a second quicker than the second placed Audi. And interestingly, first and third on the last lap, in other words, Stoll and Ragginger doing an equal lap to the 1,000th of a second. This is the last lap. It was very tight as they went across the line, but the indication given that this is the last lap now, so I think it was about 1 second that it looked like the car of the leader had got away with it by, but the officials have said this is the last lap. So the communication given to the teams, and it means that this is the last lap of the race as they work their way over the timing line onto lap 32. Now in the meantime, out of the hairpin, half a lap to go. Ragginger, I fear, is going to run out of time. The checkered flag will be made ready at the end of this lap, and yet Ragginger, even though he is closer to the back of Daniel Dobic, is not going to be close enough, unless he can force a mistake out of Dobic now coming up towards the chicane. Into the braking area they come, but we're going to have an 8th different winner of the season, because coming through the last corner, Florian Stoll and Marc Bosseng, the former GT1 world champion, are going to score victory in round 10 of the ADAC GT Masters from Nürburgring. Florian Stoll and Marc Bosseng, the race winners. It's 2 out of 2 for the MS Racing team, and we were short of the hour, because as he crossed the line, and it's a virtual dead heat for second, because it is just Daniel Dobic ahead of Martin Ragginger by 77 thousandths as the winner crossed the line. 59 minutes and 57 seconds were done. So although the indication was given it was the last lap, it was very tight over the timing line, and it's not quite the full hour. So notionally an early checkered flag given there, but it was pretty tight when the leader came across the timing line. And that, you can anticipate from the Schutz Motorsport team, will be another bone of contention, because 1 more lap and Ragginger would have been through, and effectively 1 more lap he should have had. The flag coming out before the hour was up, and given that the Schutz Motorsport team protested yesterday, I wonder whether they'll have a discussion about that as well. There's not much they can do. The result is given when the flag comes out, but Florian Stoll and Marc Bosseng the winners from Daniel Dobic and Edward Sandstrom, but technically there would have been another lap, and that would have given the Porsche the chance to go through and get second place. Number 100, yesterday's winners, second today by 77 thousandths of a second. Daniel Dobic and Edward Sandstrom then, the winners yesterday, second today. Florian Stoll and Marc Bosseng coming out on top. Marc Bosseng, a very, very happy man indeed. And the fastest lap of the race being done by Florian Stoll right at the end. You can see the delight at MS Racing as the celebrations begin. Not only a victory, but a 1-2 as well. So Audi had been off the top step of the podium all season up until this weekend, and then a win yesterday, inherited by a different Audi team, granted. And then a 1-2 finish for MS Racing in today's race. A great effort indeed, really impressive that for a team which is still learning really about racing at this level. It's a team that has been familiar within the championship for a few seasons, but gradually having moved away from running Mercedes to Audi's, working its way to be far more of a threat really. Harold Bertner's team, the technical director of which is Ralf Stoll, but the MS Racing team having defected from Mercedes to Audi, very strong indeed. A 1-2 finish, and the Audis also proving to be a very competitive car. A first win for Florian Stoll, absolutely elated. Bart Besseng goes to congratulate him. Out clambers Daniel Dobic, the Austrian driver, for second, with Edwin Sandstrom his co-driver. And then third place to Martin Ragginger in a very hot Porsche. I was wondering whether it had a water leak or something, which is why it was starting to squirt that onto the windscreen. Martin Ragginger furrowed brow, but Raggi has done a good job there for Klaus Bachler, bringing home points for third place within the championship. Edwin Sandstrom happy now with his second place. Mark Besseng happy with his race victory. There's Edwin Sandstrom on the other side of the barriers, but the celebrations begin. And Florian Stoll takes his first victory in the championship. Very, very happy he is indeed. Saying his take on the race, experienced GT racer, but still competitive spirit, and seeing a good fight both from his stint and from just standing on the pit wall watching his co-driver, the more nerve-wracking time. Florian Stoll absolutely over the moon with that win, and so the regulation Pirelli caps on the heads of the drivers. There were some television interviews to do. There's Daniel Dobic, having had his second place, the winner yesterday.
Alles wieder gut von gestern, ne? Alles wieder gut, jawohl.
Like we're saying, absolutely delighted with that. It's been a long time coming, that win. No mistakes made at all by Florian Stoll. Good drive. And there, the four MS Racing drivers get themselves together. Whoops of delight all round. In contrast, over at Zach Speed, far fewer whoops of delight, because 10th place in the end for Ash and Ludwig. They'll maintain the championship lead, but it's been diminished a bit this weekend. And so they're the top three cars. Martin Ragginger still doesn't look very happy with life, perhaps thinking that, again, it was a missed opportunity. I think they pitted a lap too late, and that cost them time, and then he got stuck in traffic. So, yeah, Martin Ragginger does not look like a man pleased with third place, does he? It's almost a sympathetic well done from the team rather than a congratulatory one. And there is indeed liquid coming out of the front of the car. It's more than just rain, that, I fear. So the Porsche taking third place despite its problems. And Martin Ragginger and Klaus Bachler head up towards the podium. Wrong way, that's for scrutineering, so they can't go that way. Down comes the garage door. Meantime, in Parc Fermé, the television interview is about to get underway as well. In the end, it was Florian Stoll who won. He also took the fastest lap of the race, that car having started from 5th on the grid, and 6th on the grid was where the sister car that finished in 2nd place began its race. So both of them having battled their way into contention. Best result, of course, of the year, first win for Stoll and Besseng. For Andreas Weishaupt and Christoph Jürgens, they in the end got 6th place, their best of the season as well. And one or two other teams with a few thoughts on that race, both good and bad. A lot of damage, sad to say. Intriguing to know what the problem was for Nicky Thiem's Audi. As there, Martin Ragginger remains frustrated. There's no smiles for either, are there? Ragginger nor Bachler. So another opportunity for a win that got away. Yesterday's was a tricky situation because they left the car out late, which on on one hand compromised it, but then by going late in the window they were able to make a tyre choice onto slicks as the road was drying that others hadn't been able to make, and that brought them back into the equation, only for Backler to get involved in somebody else's accident. But again today, a late call into the pits. We need to have a look at a replay of when the safety car call was made by the officials and when it went up on the timing screen relative to where the Porsche was on the track. If it was after it had got past the pit in line, there was nothing really that could be done, but it was still, for my money, a pit stop a lap too late. Certainly staying out that one lap compromised it quite badly. Everybody else, of course, able to dive in the pits and take the opportunity to get the pit stop out of the way, but similar situation, of course, affecting Philip Geipel, held out for 2 more laps, and so 11th in the end, the result way down the order. The Schutz Motorsport team is perhaps a squad, and others have had this in the past, that is good but will get better and needs a bit of fine-tuning, and maybe this weekend we've seen the strategy calls from the pit wall not being absolutely perfect. Maybe that's an area in which the team needing to develop. And of course the likes of Backler and Raginger, who drive for other teams, can bring their knowledge and their expertise to the situation. They're the winning 6 drivers in front of the Certina clock. Certina, the official timing partner of the ADAC GT Masters Championship. But the faces say it all. Pleased at MS Racing, very frustrated at Schutz Motorsport. And so very shortly the drivers will head towards the podium. The podium ceremony for this takes quite a bit of organising, but they will get there in due course, that's for sure. And from the Nürburgring, the championship is back in action in 2 weeks' time. It goes to the Sachsenring, then on to Zandvoort, and then the final round, first weekend in October at Hockenheim. And the ADAC GT Masters Series proving to be very competitive. The championship hotting up nicely after the effects of this weekend. And it'll be fascinating to see how the Zaxby team is able to regroup, really, after the dramas it's had here. The championship lead somewhat diminished, but what can happen next in what's been another enthralling season? Numbers perhaps not quite as great this year in the championship, but no arguments about the quality of racing, that's for sure. And the championship heading for its sole visit to Sachsenring in a few weeks' time. Just bear in mind also that the nature of this championship, with its 8 rounds, taking them to different venues just once. So each time you go, you've got to either relearn the circuit or go back to last year's data in order to try and be competitive. Nothing learned from this year. And again, for some drivers, each time they get to a venue, they're learning a new track with a new car, many stepping up into the championship this year.